Okay. Hey guys, this is Pardo. Um, so many people have requested for me to do a Garen guide. For me being known as the guy that spends countless hours of playing Garen all day, every day, and having some mediocre success with it. So Garen is your classic, top lane tank bruiser type champion. He's pretty much as simple as they come, right? When you think about what a top lane bruiser tank type champion is, right? What do you think about? You think he's like big, bulky, maybe has a couple of kill pressure abilities, but other than that, keeping the set, keeping the kit pretty simple, pretty solid. Which is all things Garen excels at very well. So I'll first give you, I wrote a little script, just so I can keep in line. So let's go first over Garen's abilities. So we have Garen's passive, Perseverance. If Garen is not struck by damage or enemy abilities for 8 seconds, he regenerates life. So that ability alone is pretty much the reason. We get into that later. You take Ignite. It's pretty much like Set's passive, just way worse. But it's still pretty fucking good on lane nonetheless. So basically, if I take a tower shot or two, you see it has a cooldown. Should be pretty self-explanatory. It will kick, and my life regen is going from 1.6 to 3.5. The higher level you go, the higher the scales. Important note here, minions and non-epic monster damage does not stop Perseverance, so if you're sitting in top lane, trading your opponent or whatever, or farming a wave, this does not go on cooldown, which is very important. Also, if for whatever reason you want to play jungle Garen, yep, jungle camps also don't cancel this, unless it's a dragon or a Baron Asher or Herald. So his Q is Decisive Strike. What Q does? Q is oops, that's the wrong one. Where's the dummy here? So what Q does is it makes you faster for a little bit. When you strike an enemy is silenced. It's a lot of burst damage. What the ability also does though is it removes slow effects from you. So say Zillion casts E on you, you're being slowed. You can Q and move freely again, which is very nice. Also, pretty much the most important part about Q is Q is an auto attack reset, as you probably know many in the game, like Jax W for example. So if you auto and Q, you double your attack speed pretty much, or that one auto attack. Easiest way to explain it pretty much. Okay, so I'll just get myself to level 6. Okay, so Garen's W, Courage. That's the ability most people are confused about. Okay, so earlier it used to be just damage reduction, lots of damage reduction, lots of tenacity, but they reworked this ability quite substantially actually. So most people don't even know this ability has a passive. Has a passive. So when you kill minions and monsters, and champions for that matter, but minions and monsters specifically, you gain passive armor and magic resist, which caps up to 30. As you know, oops. Okay. If you look at cloth armor, that's 15 armor. So you get 2 cloth armors and a no magic mantle pretty much for free, just by killing a couple minions. With a couple I mean a lot, but yeah. It's 120 units to stack this up to full. But what the active ability is you gain a shield. The shield is 10% of your max HP, which is small but noticeable, especially on lane. That's pretty much how they justified nerfing this ability, because it used to be so much stronger, but they justified nerfing it by giving you a compensation for lane, which is an issue in itself, but I will come to that later. So you also gain damage reduction for 2 seconds or whatever high this ability is. Like on level 5, it's actually a 6-second damage reduction, which is huge. Like 30% is a lot. Then for the first, as you can see, 0.75 seconds, you gain a shield that blocks damage. It's this shield. The red number scaling with your bonus HP. And 60% tenacity. That's pretty much the most important part. That's pretty much what you want to use this ability for. Unless you're just straight up trading, getting the most out of the damage reduction. Like, say an enemy attacks you, you use W, you gain damage reduction, the trade keeps going for 2 to 3 seconds, you gain a lot of value of these 30%. But other than that, say Ashe stands over here and wants to arrow you, you can use this, and 60% tenacity is actually a lot. Like, if you use Mercury threats, look at these, you gain 30% tenacity, so you gain 2 pairs of Mercury threats for 0.75 seconds. So it's a timed ability, but it's a very good ability. It's a very good ability. Then we have Judgment. Garen's pretty much signature ability, right? You spin around, that's what you do. It's Garen. Judgment has 2 components. The first is you just spin around, you deal damage. The second is it reduces armor after hitting 6 spins. Keep in mind 6 spins. This is important because the way you want to ramp Garen's damage is increasing spins. Spins increase for levels and attack speed. There's certain attack speed breakpoints that give you certain numbers of spins that give you huge power spikes, which I will also come into later. And then there's Damashian Justice. So this is Garen's, I mean, this is what you know this guy for, right? It's beautiful. It's basically just a massive burst ability. It's also execute damage, and it does true damage. It is one of the, if not the most broken single target abilities in the game, because on level 3, it pretty much 60% anyone. Like if you deal 40% damage to a target, like this is lethal range. This is ult would kill, which is very stupid in most cases, but is extremely strong. Okay, that is Garen's basic abilities. So for summoner spells, you pretty much 99 out of 100 times you always take Ignite. Reason being, you could argue, but it's a top laner, you want TP. Well, thing is, you build Doran's Shield 10 out of 10 times. Yes, there is a Doran's Blade in here, but you never built it. You build Doran's Shield 10 out of 10 times. Doran's Shield plus your passive actually give you so much sustain. Plus, Garen is not a laning phase champion, meaning you want to avoid trades as much as possible unless they are free. So, keeping that in mind, the TP becomes infinitely less valuable. So what you want to have Ignite for kill pressure pretty much, because your ult is such a good execute ability, and your kill pressure on this champion is so high that having Ignite nearly guarantees you a kill or 2 or 3, not only during the laning phase, but also especially in skirmishes and teamfights, which is very important. Because your role as Garen in skirmishes and teamfights comes down to bursting a target, it doesn't matter what target, mostly it's just a target, making the fight a 5v4 or whatever. Okay. You could argue, like, when they freshly reworked Garen, and he had so much early game damage that you actually didn't have a need for Ignite. I took Ghost for the first 400 games or so. Ghost was really good, and I believe Ghost might be really good again. with the buffs they made this patch. But I will have to do further testing on that. The issue with Ghost is, yes, it's a very good summoner. It's probably the best summoner actually. But you're missing out on crucial kill pressure. Which oftentimes you need to not to win lane, but to dominate lane. Winning lane on Garen is fairly easy due to his simplistic kit and high kill pressure. Dominating lane, however, not so much. There will be many times where you will combo your opponent and your opponent will live with this amount of HP. So an Ignite would kill him, but you won't. Like flashing away from EE is not too uncommon. That's why you most of the time you want to E, then ult and ignite. And if the enemy flashes away, they still get caught by the ult, and the ignite will just finish them off. Because it's very easy to, if you have a couple of games against Garen, it's very easy to calculate his damage. Then again, due to his simplistic kit, right? Wait. So, where's the in here? I will get to runes later. Let's go into trading patterns on this champ. So many people seem to think that, you know, due to Garen being such a one-dimensional champion, so are his combos, which for the most part they are. But there's a couple neat tricks that are in the game that I can show you. Oh, one sec. It's these, right? Yeah, these are what I'm looking for. So here's the most basic combos, right? It's auto tech Q, it's auto tech QE, it's auto tech E and Q. But there's a couple of things like Q auto R. This is a very strong combo. One you should really utilize a lot. For, like, let's say your enemy is on half HP, this most of the time will kill them. If you pair it with an ignite, of course. But anyway, for sake of this video, I kinda changed my keybinds to be somewhat normal. Because they usually are not. But there's a couple that people really don't utilize a lot. Like, for example, engaging with E is so good, because keep in mind, this reduces armor. Armor reduce means your Q does more damage, your auto attacks do more damage. So if you walk into range, start Eing on someone, and then auto Q. That is a very strong combo, as you can see in the total damage number. 776. I have no items, by the way. What else is there? There's also my personally favorite combo, the one I use the most. For not for lane, but for team fighting, especially. Actually, I should go over lane combos first. So you have auto Q, auto E, auto QE. Then the more situational ones are, let me see. It's especially into tankier targets. Let's say you're facing Ornn. So Ornn always wants to engage you with W, right? He's always gonna cast QW to slow you and be annoying. So what you can do against Ornn is you auto EQ. You don't auto Q to auto attack with this, but you auto, then E, and if he hits you with Q, you Q, because your Q has a slow removal, so Ornn Q doesn't affect you anymore. But pretty much what you want to do is auto E. Then you spin around the target, you try to get around the target, that is the important part. And then you do auto E, auto Q. This is pretty much the highest DPS combo you have on this champion on lane. It is very abusable, very situational, but if you can do it, it's pretty much the best combo. You do this, then this, then this. This is your pretty much basic kill combo. Very strong on lane. It does at least 50 to 60% of the enemy's HP, depending on champion. But this is pretty much where it's at. There is there is the impractical combos as well. The one like auto Q E. No, that's wrong. Wait. It's auto Q, auto E, and R. The flashes. Not needed, by the way. I'm still getting used to keybinds. And then there's the E cancel combos. So for people that don't know, as you can see, oh wait, I have to turn this off because otherwise it doesn't work. If you use E, you need 1 second to be able to cancel E again. Why is this important? Well, Riot has also gave us the opportunity to cancel E with ult. What E also does is, if you look here, it insta gives you 2 Conqueror stacks. Like no matter what you do, it insta gives you 2 Conqueror stacks. So if you do, wait, auto Q E R, R insta cancels your E. Also, you always want to combo your ults with your ignite if you can. So, like doing this for example, when you're in ult animation, just press your ignite on top of it. The first ignite tick does damage. Like it's not a lot of damage, but it is damage. 34. Meaning your ult does more damage, because you know 34 is what, third of an auto attack, a bit more than third of an auto attack. So your ult just does more damage. Also, your ult just, I mean, it ticks after the ult is executed. Most of the time you get a kill. You just have to get a feel for how much damage your ult does actually. Ult does a lot of damage though. Getting to itemization of this champion. So, like I explained before, Garen E now scales with attack speed. I mean, you want attack speed items, but you don't want to go overboard on attack speed items. So, I pretty much just went ahead over hundreds and hundreds of hours, derping around, looking what the best breakpoints are to play this champ, itemization wise. So as you can see, I have a set for level 6 for 8 spins. You just need 1 dagger. Where's the number? Garen rapidly spins his sword around for 3 seconds, dealing physical damage 8 times. So this is 8 spins. You need 1 dagger for 8 spins. What you want to do is pretty much aim for this breakpoint first. Level 7, 10 spins, which is circle grease and a dagger. This is oh, I need 1 level up. So you have 9 spins now. This set was made pre-nerf. It's still the same, it's just all these are 1 less now. Okay, that's pretty much all they did. You still build the same items, it's just all of these numbers are -1 spin. So this is 9, this is 10, I'm just way too lazy to upgrade this. So what Garen does with 9 spins is, I'm just gonna place a dummy here instead. 9 spins is way more than 6 spins, as you can imagine. Especially since after 6 spins, enemies lose their armor. So you see it ticks faster, and here's where they armor break. So what pretty much your game plan is you want 13 or 14 spins, but having 14 spins is impractical on item build, so you want 13 spins instead. Pretty much you just get this. What you're aiming for is having a Triforce and Zerker Grease as your core items. This plus levels. It is important to note you cannot take attack speed runes on Garen, because the E only scales with champion base attack speed, aka your levels, and item attack speed. It does not scale with the champion does not scale with rune attack speed at all. So Triforce Zerker Grease is pretty much where it's at. You have 12 spins in late game for the current meta build. You used to have more because you were building Phantom Dancer. You do not anymore, just due to the fact that Phantom Dancer only gives you one spin after level 15. So it's just not good enough of an item to justify buying it over buying the current meta items, which are Deadman's, Deathlands, and Starks. Last item is kind of optional, but these are your current core items. So as you can see, the damage of this champ has gone to ridiculous numbers over the past patches, because due to the nerfs of crit items on Garen and the nerfs of its attack speed ratios, they gave him compensation buffs in terms of damage. And I don't know why it is the last two patches, especially, and this patch, why the champion does this much damage, but I think it's borderline broken right now. So, I used to say that Garen was a really bad champion until they reworked him. Then he was a really good champion for a while. Then they nerfed him 12 times. Then he was a really bad champion again. And then suddenly, out of nothing, like he got one buff, which wasn't even very significant. Some items got power shifted, and now he's suddenly a really good champion again. Like a really good champion. So if you look at this, that's... I mean, that's 0 armor target, but still, that's 1900 damage on just touching him. I think it has a lot to do with Starks giving you lots of base AD, and Death Dance just being such a good item right now. Also, the damage of Deadman's Plate is ridiculous, I don't know why. Like, look at this. That's 984 damage in one hit. By just having Triforce Deadmans. So, how do you want to play this guy? You have a very simple one-dimensional plan. You want to lane until you reach this point. You want to passive lane until you have Zerker Grease plus Dagger. That gives you your 9 spins, level 7. Then you can start laning very aggressively, because you are, unless at this point you lost lane hard, you're 9 out of 10 times stronger than your opponent. Let's not go into matchups and range matchups, etc. But having a neutral matchup, let's say Aurelia or whatever, Zerker Grease Dagger is the point where you pretty much beat anyone. Level 7. So from this point forward, you can start aggressing lane, poking lane. You can perma push and start harassing people on the tower by doing pretty much you let them attack a creep minion. Sorry, I'm getting flamed a lot for saying creeps, not minions. And then you just auto QE and go out. You just poke them. Because even if you take a tower shot, even if you take 2 tower shots, the trade is going positive because you have W to block the first and even reduce its damage. And once you have chipped them to 50%-ish HP, and they have no potions left, you pretty much just repeat the process, right? You just run at them, you go E, you go Ignite Ult, and auto-attack them once and they die. That's pretty much how you transition poke into kills on Garen. And it works 9 out of 10 times like a charm. The only thing you have to care about is jungle pressure, because you are missing mobility, you are not having a dash. Sometimes you can turn, especially if you have ult, you can oftentimes turn and at least kill one of them, but you will die for it. Sometimes worth, sometimes not. Depends on what you want to do. I tend to kill trade a lot, too much in my opinion. Because I know I play very well from ahead. But putting your team behind for you being ahead is most of the time not worth it. It's just being a bad team player. So what you should do instead is play for mid game. Let's say you got yourself a lead on lane. You're at the point of having Triforce or whatever. Stinger Phage. Yeah, you're at the point of having Stinger Phage. I don't know if I can roll back levels. Probably cannot. Maybe level down somewhere. Oh, okay. Nope. Nope. Okay. So you're at the point of having Stinger Phage. You can start really abusing people, especially if you reach level 11 and your ult reaches level 2. It's 25% of the target's max missing health. That does way too much damage. You start literally one-shotting people. Like you just run at them with Q, you go E-Ignite, you go R auto attack, and most of the time they're dead. Just from full HP, see 2.5k damage. Okay, granted I'm level 18, but even then it would be what 1.9k damage. Nobody has 1.9k health at level 11. Nobody. Even if they have armor, it's still 1.4, 1.5, and even that is stretching the numbers. Like 1.4k at level 11, you don't really have that much HP. Or you barely do. If you do, you barely do. So most of the time you just one-shot people. And then the second you have Triforce, the game is pretty much over for enemies. Like, if they try to 1v1 you, because what you do then is you auto-attack E-ult, and it suddenly does 2.2k, or 1.6k through armor. Or you just straight run at them, E-Ignite R, max duration, it's 2.8, so that's mitigated around 2000. That's a lot of damage. So this is the point where you can start really abusing people. And all you want to do is keep split pushing until you have Deadman's Plate. Deadman's Plate is another big spike item for you. Deadman's Plate makes you faster, like it builds stacks when you move. You see these stacks stacking up, and once it's on max stacks you get really fast. Also, your next basic attack, it slows enemies, and it used to do damage. Does it not do it? Oh yeah, it does. It deals 1 magic damage per stack of momentum, so it does 100 bonus magic damage. You can see here, 100 bonus magic damage, which is actually a lot of damage. Seeing that your auto attacks do, or I mean, I'm level 18, but yeah, my auto attack does, what is it, 198? So this is half an auto attack at level 18. I mean, Deadman's Plate is half an auto attack at level 18. If you finish this around level 13, 14, it pretty much does as much damage as your auto attacks, or half as much damage as your Q, or a third as much damage as your Q. So this is very strong supplement damage. Also, it slows your enemy. The strongest part, or the strongest itemizations and supplementary things you can have for Garen is move speed modifiers. Either modifying your move speed to be faster, or modifying enemies' move speed to be slower, so you can stick more E-procs. Because this obviously is your main damage. Right. Garen suffers from having it's good that he has a very simplistic kit, but he also suffers from having a very simplistic kit. You get kited a lot by people. It is very hard for you to chase most things. Not anymore though, because you know the move speed is very fast. I mean I'm home guarding, but I'll just wait for my next Q. It is 530 move speed. That's a lot. So you can chase most things down with the Deadmans and just straight up kill them. Because you have the slow, you have the silence. Silence is very strong. People can't flash if they're silenced, meaning you can abuse this full duration. Look at the bar above the dummy. You can do this. Abuse this full duration until you ult, because that is the only way they can escape is flashing after they're silenced. So if you can just stick the E for the full duration, they most of the time just die. And that is pretty much how you want to play as Garen as well. Either you play him as a split pusher, like let's say a Tryndamere, and you just go rage split most of the time, because barely any people can 1v1 you in the mid game. That's why I'm saying Garen is borderline broken, right? Because if you look at the strong split pushers in this game right now, they're Camille, Fiora, Darius, and Jax. That's the 4. Well, Fiora is a bit of a skill matchup. The issue with Fiora is she has such an oppressive early game that she just bullies you out of the lane. You most of the time are way too far behind to fight her in the mid game. If you're not though, if your enemy Fiora is not that good, like let's say you're not playing at a Grandmaster plus level, your enemy Fiora is likely not to be that good. Meaning she will let you farm a lot, and then it just comes down to outsmarting her on a fight in the mid game. But you're most of the time just stronger than her. But let's say Jax, Darius, and Camille especially. You demolish these champions right now. Camille was known to be one of Garen's hardest counters, and she still sort of is, because like Fiora, she demolishes your own lane. But if you reach the mid game, if you reach these 3 items, what you do with Camille right now is she wants to try to go for these nice extended trades, right? She wants to go for the E, get her huge attack speed buff, go for the true damage. But issue for Camille right now is all you have to do is this, and she's dead. That is all you have to do. Most of the time Camille just dies from that. Out of the 4 I listed, the only champion living through this is Darius if he hits 2 Qs on you. And Jax sometimes, because if he gets ahead and builds smart, like if he gets early Phage, if he gets Tabes, and his ult is up, he mitigates a lot of damage, because his ult gives a lot of armor. Also, his E blocks your Q, so you can't silence him. But granted all of these things, you still beat Jax most of the time, just due to the habit of E, because your E goes through his counter-strike. What Garen does not want to do is force teamfights. Garen is very bad at teamfighting. Not very bad, but pretty bad. Because what you want to do, what your job is in the game, right, is hitting priority targets. Priority targets not being enemy carries, by the way. You're not an assassin. You can play like one sometimes, like if your flash is up. Keep in mind, Garen's flash is his only mobility, but due to him being very bulky, very beefy, and very fast, you can, if you have the opportunity to trade flashes with, let's say, enemy AD carry, you should probably take it. Also, just having the chance of one-shotting enemy AD carry, most of the time, very well worth it. But other than that, you want to hit priority targets. Priority targets being bruisers that want to get onto your AD carry. You can peel kinda good on Garen. Like, I mean, peeling in the sense of you don't CC the enemy, right? You can block skill shots as you're naturally very tanky. But peeling mostly in the sense that, let's say, enemy Darius ghosts at your AD carry. Your AD carry flashes away and kites a bit. What do you do with the Darius, right? You fight him. You fight him, you kill him. Because with the help of an AD carry, you just need to get the Darius to 50%-ish HP, and you just kill him with ult ignite most of the time. That would be a priority target in a fight for you. Also, priority targets being something like straight up tanks that really want to start bully your backline, like Zac, and I would count Sejuani into it as well. You're also really good against these targets because of your tenacity. You can very well block, let's say, Sejuani ults for your teammates. If Sejuani ults you, use W, you get a lot of tenacity and you can just fight her back. Because of your armor shred, you work very well playing together with your ADC. Because you make them do a lot more damage. I mean, Things you want to avoid playing Garen. Number 1, team fighting. Number 2, objectives. Many people are telling you that you're trolling when you go for objectives. When you're not going for objectives, like, you know, dragons, barons. But I argue that Garen is so bad at team fighting that if you force a team fight for, let's say, a dragon, your odds of winning that team fight, unless you're insanely fed, are actually worsened by you being there. Because your strength comes from skirmishing and split pushing. So if you have the opportunity to, I don't know, trade a dragon, like not going for a dragon, but instead taking tier 1 plus tier 2 top lane and having a good wave and taking enemy jungle afterwards, you should always take it. You just have to make the selfish play. The only things you do not want to sacrifice, like when your team needs you for Dragon Soul, or Elder Dragon Soul, or a Baron, you should go for those. But Heralds and first 2 Drakes, you probably don't want to contest these. Unless it's a 2v2 or a 3v3. That is odds you can take. But a straight up 4v4 or 5v5, you're pretty bad at as Garen. Knowing where you want to be on the map. Where does Garen want to be? Garen usually wants to be not on... He's not Tryndamere. He doesn't want to be on the opposite side of his team. Due to the nature of you not playing TP, you cannot help whatsoever if something happens. Yes, you mostly want to be on side lanes, but if, let's say, Dragon's Soul is up, and you know a team fight is happening, you want to be on the bot lane, not on the top lane. Do not rage split top lane. It's usually bad. Like, even if Nashor is up, being top lane is usually bad. You would rather be mid lane than top lane. And open up the map. You have a lot of wave clear, and you have a lot of 1v1 potential. Meaning you can just go and be selfish and clear waves, and most of the time ignore your team, for the most part, and then just join skirmishes. Join skirmishes for objectives. If you can catch someone with a good flank, that is pretty much how you win, or how you solo win games on Garen. Is a team fight breaking out here, instead of being here with your team, you try to loop around, you try to get a good flank on whatever support, a carry or whatever, and try to win fights these ways. It's all very situational and theoretical, of course, but it is useful things to know. Alright. So here we are at the rune section. The most common rune page you're gonna see on Garen is this one. It's also the one you should play most of the time. Conqueror just naturally being very good on Garen, because of the nature of his E. Many hits mean many stacks mean many AD mean many damage. For the secondary runes though, having conditioning is very good. I used to joke about this rune a lot, because it used to be very bad, but now having, with the armor and magic resist being increased by 5%, this actually becomes insane. So let's say you're in a 24-minute game, this stacks up to 2, which is not too uncommon. 24-minute games on a late game champ, not too uncommon. You get 18 armor and magic resist, that's meh. But keep in mind, you get 30 from your W. So, and you build a Death Dance in the new build, and you build a Deadman's Plate. So you get 30, then 60, and 78. So you get 78 armor and magic resist, and this is increased by 10% for being 24 minutes in the game. You get rewarded for being longer in the game on a late game champ, which is very nice. So you gain an extra 8 armor and magic resist just from having this rune, from having the plus 5% times 2. Yeah, very strong. Overgrowth being a no-brainer is just pretty much the new buffed unflinching, you could make a point for that. New buffed unflinching is very good. I will probably try to make it work with the new ghost. But I don't think it's all that necessary, because Garen naturally has a lot of tenacity. You also take tenacity here because, like I said, attack speed in runes does nothing for your E, so you don't play it. So this is pretty much a no-brainer. You just take this for maximum HP. Maximum HP scales with your W. Maximum HP just scales with your resist in general, with your damage reduction. Everything about your W makes this rune so much better. Makes it get so much more value. The second rune page, the one I usually play when I'm smurfing, when I'm not playing high elo games, whenever I just really feel like it, because I love this page, because I love this rune, Nimbus Cloak. Nimbus Cloak is so good. After casting a summoner spell, gain a short movement speed increase that allows you to pass through units. The short movement speed increase is actually ridiculously much. Also, Transcendence being a really good rune. If you really want your CDR on Garen. So just getting 10% for free on level 10 is actually insane, since you want to build Zerker Grease into Triforce, so you just have automatic 30% CDR by having this rune. Very strong, since you build Deadman's Plate and your second CDR item, like your 40% CDR, is gonna be very delayed, especially on the new build. Like before, I used to build Essence Reaver as the Triforce Essence Reaver, and you had your 40%, which was very nice. But since you don't anymore, this rune becomes extremely valuable. But this page is way riskier. I would, especially to newer players or lower elo players, I would always recommend playing these pages, because firstly, lower elo games, and with lower elo I mean up to D3, D2, usually tend to go much longer. Like I would say a good 25-minute average or something, if people don't open. Higher elo games usually are way shorter. So this becomes a lot more valuable. Then the next room page I go a lot is my anti-ranged matchups. So let's say you face a Vayne top. If you don't want to dodge the game, which you probably should, because not only is it unplayable, and you will probably lose lane, but it's also very unfun. And a game being unfun, why are you even playing it, right? So most of the time I just dodge Vayne, I dodge Quinn, I dodge Nico. Those are the three champs you really don't want to lane against. There's also some other ones that are pretty bad, like Gangplank, Lucian, Tristana, Kalista. But nothing is as bad as laning Vayne. Keep in mind, it's Vayne, it's Nico, and it's Quinn. These are the three champions you absolutely do nothing against for the first 20 minutes. And it's really annoying. So you take Predator. Predator with a new and increased buff on Predator. It's very nice. You have an instant activation on a rune that makes you extremely fast and gives you a lot of burst damage. Your playstyle changes a bit, but I will get into that in a second. So you take this, then you take Cheap Shot, because Cheap Shot, with impaired, you gain bonus damage against enemies with impaired movement speed or actions. You don't have a slow, but your Q is a silence, and your Cheap Shot gets triggered by your Q. I don't know how exactly that works, but I know it does. Your Q triggers your Cheap Shot. So you do a lot of burst damage on the first hit. This one is kind of optional. I personally always go for Eyeball Collection because it's, you know, I don't have to think about it. I'm a Garen player. I have single digit IQ. Just take Eyeball. I think probably Zombie Ward is just better, but just take Eyeball. It's way simpler. And then you take Ingenious Hunter for having less cooldown on your Predator. Predator by itself has a very low cooldown since this patch, and I think I will play it a lot more now. It's just an incredible rune, really. It has a 60 second cooldown now, and I don't know how far this takes it down actually. 15 and 5 per stack. That's a lot. Jeez. That's a 40% down. 40% down from 60 seconds. Whew. That's a lot. And then for secondaries, you just take your standard page again. You can make a point for playing this, just because it's a lot of move speed from celerity, like the move speed increase on Predator. You could make a point for that, but it's a very greedy rune page. Especially since your items are not the tankiest for the first 2 to 3. So you would much rather have this page than this page, but you can make a point for it. It's pretty good. And then the last, and my favorite rune page, is the late game Garen page. I call it the late game Garen page because it's absolute dogshit on lane. It gives no damage for quite a while. All it gives is utility. It's Phaserush. So I'm gonna show you a neat trick with Phaserush in game in a second. It's very good. You take your Slender 2 and then you take Gathering Storm. Same reason you take Conditioning. Because you see, after 10 minutes you just gain 80. 80 being good. And then for secondaries you just take your Slender runes again. What does Phaserush do? Well, you gain a lot of move speed. And like I explained before, move speed equals damage. Because you stick better with E. Move speed in fights is extremely valuable due to the fact that you oftentimes have an issue chasing down targets because the lack of CC and the lack of dash. Move speed also means your escape routes are suddenly getting a lot easier if you get caught. So all in all, Phaserush, I mean, in my opinion, best rune for Garen and worst rune for Garen. It's the best in late game, it's the worst in early and mid game. But the champion is so strong in late game anyway that you don't have to double down on it. You would much rather take the Conqueror, play for your early and mid game, then translate it into an anyway strong late game. But actually have a game before 30 minutes, which you cannot with Phaserush. So I played a lot of Phaserush Garen when they released him. I mean, they re-released him, right? Like they reworked him. And he was so strong early game that I could get away with playing Ghost Phaserush every game. So he was simply that strong, right? Like he had so much damage in this kit that I could simply play Ghost Phaserush, still demolish people in the early and mid game, and just have this insane monster of a 1v9 late game champion. Anyway, that's it for the runes, by the way. I think I pretty much explained the items already, but I will go over some stuff in the game again. Right, so we're back into the game. Do all this, level me up. Right. So there's a couple of cool things about Phaserush. Things you might know, things you might not know. Whoops. I accidentally pressed something. So let's put this here. Okay. Did you know? So Phaserush reads, right? After hitting an enemy champion with 3 spells or attacks in a rapid succession. No, I misread that, but yeah. You gain move speed after hitting people with 3 things. Keep in mind I say things, not attacks, not spells, I say things. Because did you know that Bami Cinder dealing whatever 6 damage to an enemy actually procs Phaserush, which is very nice. So wait, I'm actually gonna sell this first and show you how it is without. Toggle off the minions. Where's the minion toggle? Here. And give myself another dummy right here. Okay, so if I do this, I get a move speed, right? Phaserush not activated. So what you have to do is auto QE and you get move speed. A lot of move speed. Well, if you buy Bami Cinder, however, or Sunfire, but Sunfire is really bad on Garen. Please don't build it. I see people building it all the time and I cringe every time. Your Barmy Cinder actually counts as an activator for Phaserush. So if I just go QE, I get move speed. So your building components is Barmy Cinder into Zerk Grease into Triforce, just as you did before. You just build a Barmy Cinder in there. You're doing the exact same thing you did before. But now you gain all this nice move speed for just having a Barmy Cinder. You just transition into your normal build. But instead, like, you never want to upgrade this. So instead of building this, what you actually do is, I have to be careful for this, you build Abyssal Mask. Because I have no idea why, but for some reason, Abyssal Mask does the same thing. See? Abyssal Mask counts as an activator for Phaserush. Do not ask me why, it's just what it is. We just have to accept what it is. Abyssal Mask, being more of a team-focused item, I mean, yeah, it gives you nice health and magic resist and cooldown reduction, but it's more of a team-focused item with the, you know, nearby enemies take 15% more magic damage, which is actually a multiplier, by the way. You see how it reads nearby enemies, nearby enemy champions take 50% more magic damage? It's actually a 15% damage multiplier, which is kind of crazy. It used to be, like, this used to be reducing enemy magic resistance, but since it now says 15% more magic damage taken, that's actually so much more. That's so much more damage than you do with the 15% with the 15% less resistance on enemies. So let me just show you what a build on Predator Garen would look like. As you might have to play it a couple of times to get used to it. Also just to let's say outplay. I don't really mean outplay, but kind of outplay ranged top laners, because everyone hates ranged top laners. They're actually manageable as Garen. You just have to sacrifice early game a lot. You build your standard Doran Shield. Doran Shield being extremely good against ranged champions, obviously, because you get less damage from attacks and you heal up a lot when they attack you. Also an exceptionally good item for people that struggle with Volibear, by the way. Building Doran Shield and going 1 or 2 rejuve beats. Usually I just build 1, just not to waste too much gold. Against Volibear is extremely strong, because Volibear passive makes it so you never proc your passive. Because right, he's attacking minions, and then he's getting all these little lightning strikes that literally do 3 damage to you or whatever, but they cancel your passive, which really sucks. But they also activate Doran Shield, which is really good, because Doran Shield healing is actually better than your passive healing, as sad as it sounds. So how would you go on to building Predator Garen? You always build you go Doran Shield, Health Potion, and then you go into Boots. The reason you always want to go into full Boots is because Zerk Grease just give you 45 move speed being the best stat on Garen. They give you 35 attack speed, it's so good. 35 attack speed just insta gives you like 2 spins. What you do after is you don't want to max E on Predator Garen. That is why most people are struggling with this build. Most people that try to copy what's his face? There's me, there's Mew, and there's a third guy. I forgot his name. But he's also a Garen player who plays exclusively Predator every game since over 3 years. And what you want to do on Predator Garen is you want to capitalize on the burst potential that the rune gives you. So instead of building Stinger and going Emax, you actually max Q. Go Sheen first. You go Sheen into Phage, into Deadman's Plate. The Phage just being a utility item, so you gain some move speed from something. But mostly it's about the Sheen, right? Sheen enhances your Q. So if you activate Predator and you have the Deadman's Plate and the Sheen, You're very, very, very fast. You can roam around a lot. That's also the way how I play mid lane Garen, by the way. I'm very infamous for playing mid lane Garen. Most people don't like to see it, but I roam a lot on this Predator mid lane Garen, and it just does so much damage. I mean, of course I have Phaserush right now, and this would be a lot more damage with the Predator, but I'm CBA going out of the game and, you know, changing rune, going back into game again, recording again, stuff. So excuse me for that. I think that's most of the things you have to know about this champion. Actually, there's alright. I wanted to show you some examples of the playstyle of Phaserush Garen. So things you mostly want to do, like team fighting or Phaserush Garen, for example, you go, since your QR activates your Phaserush because you have Bummies, right? Remember Bummies? So you go QR, and then you can E, and you can, with the Phaserush, hold up, I'll just do that again, with the Phaserush this time, you can transition, like even if the targets are that far apart, you can transition pretty well from this target to this target. So you finish this guy off, right, you do this, and then you just transition into this target, because you're that fast. Also things you can do is, like usually what I would recommend to do is, if you play Phaserush Garen, don't go QER as you normally would, but 9 out of 10 times, especially in late game, when your damage is that high anyway, you go QRE. Because QRE, you utilize your move speed better, you can use a full duration E if there's more than one enemy or whatever. Most of the time it's just better. But that's just a recommendation. It's theoretical. I would have to show you in-game examples, but I just don't have that many clips of me playing Garen really, because most of the things I record is just derping around. Most of the things I stream is mostly low elo games, and I had to delete my recent VODs. So yeah, I couldn't even look for it if I wanted to, because I had to delete my recent VODs because of, you know, copywriting stuff. So yeah, I think that's most of it. There is the most important part. There is the most important part indeed. Let me just look it up really quick. Friend of mine has a nice animation for it, and I kinda yoinked this idea of making this video. Not really, because his is in French, and I just wanted it to be available for other people. For more people in that sense. So there's also there's the skins section, okay, which is arguably the most important part of playing Garen. So there's the winner in skins, yeah, which is the Mafia Vice Garen. There's no way you don't play the skin if you can't afford it. It's just simply the best skin to play. It has nice chromas, it has nice animations, it's very smooth, cool sounds, you get nice in-game music. It's just the all-in-one package. My close second contender, the skin I actually absolutely love, sorry that's my dog, is God King Garen. I would go as far to say this is probably my second favorite skin in the game, after Super Galaxy Rumble. I love to play the skin, it feels very nice, it feels very mighty. You have very nice animations, because when you spin, instead of using one sword and spinning around, he actually splits his sword in two and starts going full Beyblade. Very cool. Also nice voice lines. Very dope voice lines. In terms of play feel, Mecha Kingdom Garen and its Prestige Edition are extremely good. They're very close to the Mafia Vice Garen, just, you know, way less swag. But it's a cool Robo Boy, and I can understand if you want to play it. The reason I do not play God King Garen as much as I do is the higher you go in elo, the worse the skin becomes. For the simple reason that it indicates all you do. If you actually start out playing Garen, for the first 100, 150 games or so, playing the skin will help you improve. Because he has such clear indications of how big his E is, and when his ticks are, because of the sound cue. Wait, let me show you in game. I have the skin selected right now. Change scene to this. Okay. Just making this louder. So hear the sound of my E now, yeah? You see it ticks 12 times, hear the sound of the E. Every time you hit the enemy with your E, like every time it ticks, it does this loud swing sound. Which, by the way, is also the reason the skin is worse in high-elo, because of the super clear indication of what your outline is. Which, for you as a Garen player, of course, is quite nice, but for your opponents, it's very easy to outplay the skill if the outline is this clear. Like if you want to space it, also, yeah, spacing is very important on Garen, by the way, but that's very advanced mechanics. I don't want to get into it, but obviously, if you space your E right, enemy is not in auto attack range, meaning you can oftentimes get trades with spacing. But that's very unimportant, really. No, the important part is your E does this sound on every tick. Other skins don't do that. It's just this skin. But what that means is, especially early game, like level 5 to 6, when you only have like 6-7 spins, the enemy can actually flash out of your E on good timers, because you get into the rhythm, right? Like let me just sell all my items. So my E has 9 spins now. So as you can see where the ticks chunk and the sound appears, the enemy can actually flash at the right time to just get out of it. And you can clearly see what the range is. If you play the Demacia Vice Garen, the E looks way bigger than it actually is. I don't know what it is with the skin, but it's the same on Mecha Kingdom. The E looks actually bigger than this. And oftentimes, if you try to perfect space, like let's say you're team fighting and you try to do this and just hit the outline, your Q actually doesn't connect because it's because you're here. Well, yeah, you're here, and your Q shows that it's hitting the target, but it's not. It's actually bigger than the skill itself. Also, that's what I meant with the dual blades. It's very cool. Very righteous. Very cool. And you have this nice, you know, kitty. So yeah, what you want to do is get yourself this skin for either this skin or this skin. But I would really recommend, if you play in like Master and above, not to play God King Garen. It's actually hindering you. So there is a point to make to play Steel Legion Garen, but ever since Garen got his VFX rework, this skin has become kind of outdated. It used to be his best skin, but then they released all of, you know, these. And then there's of course the 3 OG skins and the weird pirate one. Really, these 4 skins are just bad, outdated, pixelated chromas of the original. No actual reason to have them. They absolutely do nothing for your gameplay. They look just like the normal one. They have the same animations. It's just these 3 that actually change things. If you want to know my personal opinion on the chromas, most of the time I play with the Amethyst or the Pearl. The Neon Noir, I love that one, but I only have it on one account, and I do not play on that account a lot. Of the Legacy skins, there's also Warring Kingdoms Garen, actually. Warring Kingdoms Garen is pretty cool. It's the Risty skin. Most of you probably know Risty. I like that one a lot. I just don't really play it. It's cool and green, has nice animations, but yeah, it's pretty boring. The rest is pretty boring. Right. But I think that concludes my video. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope I could help anyone fulfill their dreams of being a chunky Garen boy. Also, I hope this helps you climbing, because Garen is notoriously good in low elo. People seem to underestimate, people think this game is too simple, too boring. but this champ is actually really good, especially in its current state. So yeah, good luck on the Rift. Bye bye, have fun, hard out.